Last week we talked about what OpenAI actually stores when you use ChatGPT and why deleting your account doesn't delete your data. That left one open question. What can you actually do about it? Right now, today, before you open another chat. The answer is inside a menu. Most users have never touched. Data controls. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through exactly which toggles matter, what each one actually does, and the order to change them in. And we'll cover how Claude and Gemini handle the same problem, because the answer isn't the same across all three. This is the setup that should have come with your AI subscription. Before we go further, a quick note about how this channel works. This video is presented by an AI avatar. That's a deliberate choice, not a shortcut. Producing with AI lets me research deeper, publish faster, and keep everything here free for you. Smarter workflow, same quality standard. And for a channel built on teaching you to use AI effectively, using it ourselves is the whole point. Every setting shown in this video is pulled directly from the current interface of each platform, verified against published support documentation and privacy policies. The interfaces may update. The principles behind these settings won't. You're getting accurate information, delivered efficiently. That's the deal. There's a reason data controls aren't part of the onboarding flow. When you first create a ChatGPT account, you're guided straight to the chat window. The settings menu is there, but nothing prompts you to open it. No tutorial, no checklist, no notification. By default, the settings that matter most for your data are configured to benefit OpenAI, not you. Out of the box, improve the model for everyone is switched on. That one toggle means every conversation you have can be reviewed by OpenAI's team and used to train the next version of the model. Most users either never discover this setting at all, or they find it after hundreds of conversations have already happened, and the damage is already done. Default settings are a product decision. Companies configure defaults that serve their priorities. That's not cynicism. That's how software works. Your job is to understand what the defaults are and decide which ones to keep. That starts here. Open ChatGPT. Click your profile icon. Top right on desktop, bottom left on mobile. Then settings. Then data controls. 3 controls. Most people have changed 0 of them. Toggle 1. Improve the model for everyone. This is the most important setting on this screen. When it's enabled, OpenAI can use your conversations, the questions you asked, the context you provided, the outputs you generated, as training data for future models. Turn it off. There is no trade-off. Turning it off does not change how ChatGPT responds to you. It does not remove any features. It stops your conversations from being used for model training going forward. That's all it does. Off before you type another prompt. Toggle 2. Memory. Memory is a genuinely useful feature. It lets ChatGPT remember your role, your communication style, your goals across conversations. But if you've never reviewed what's stored in there, you may find things you didn't consciously put there. ChatGPT builds memory from what you tell it, and from what it infers. Job details, personal relationships, health context, financial situations. Open manage memory. Read every item. Delete what you didn't authorize. What remains should be a deliberate professional brief, not an accidental personal file. Toggle 3. Temporary chat. Underused, underexplained. When you start a temporary chat, the conversation isn't saved to your history, and it is not used for model training. Full stop. For anything sensitive, health questions, financial decisions, client information, use temporary chat by default. One important distinction: temporary chat doesn't mean the conversation never reached OpenAI servers. It means it's not retained in your history and not used for training. The technical difference matters. Clearing your chat history feels decisive. It removes the conversation list from your view. What it doesn't do, it doesn't immediately delete those conversations from OpenAI's servers. As we covered last week, OpenAI's own policy allows up to 30 days for server-side deletion, and that figure is self-reported. There's no independent verification process. Clearing your history is a cosmetic action. It is not a data protection action. Don't confuse the two. The export data function is worth using, but not for the reason most people assume. When you export, you receive a file containing your full conversation history and account information. The value isn't archiving your old chats. The value is accountability. When you see exactly what OpenAI has been holding, you stop guessing. That changes how you use the platform from this point forward. You're making decisions with information, not assumptions. Custom instructions sit in a separate menu, but they are directly relevant to the data question. Every time you give ChatGPT sensitive real-time context, I'm handling a difficult client situation, or here's my company's internal process, that context enters your conversation history, sits there. Custom instructions replace that pattern. You write your professional context once, in controlled language, deliberately. Sensitive information stops flowing through the chat itself, because the context is already structured. Less data exposure, same output quality, better results. Everything we've covered so far is specific to ChatGPT, but most of you are using more than one platform. So let's look at what Claude and Gemini actually offer and where they fall short. Claude, built by Anthropic, handles the training opt-out in a similar way to ChatGPT. Inside your Claude account settings, under Privacy, you'll find the option to opt out of having your conversations used for model training. The setting exists, it's inside the app, turn it off. Where Claude differs is memory. There's no granular memory feature, no list of stored inferences you can review and delete item by item. Claude uses projects to maintain context, but that context is what you deliberately put there. There's no background inference engine, quietly building a profile on you. For custom instructions, Claude supports system prompts inside projects, so the core of the pilot plan still applies. Your professional brief goes in once, sensitive real-time prompting goes down. Gemini is where things get meaningfully different and more complicated. Gemini's data controls are not inside the Gemini app. They're managed through your Google account settings, under Data and Privacy, under Gemini Apps Activity. That's not a minor detail. It means most users who open Gemini and look for a settings panel similar to ChatGPT's will find nothing equivalent. The controls are elsewhere, by design. Turn off Gemini Apps Activity, and your conversations are no longer saved to your Google account. But here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. Even with Gemini Apps Activity turned off, Google's reviewers can still access your conversations for safety and quality purposes for up to 3 years. 3 years. That retention window is significantly longer than either OpenAI or Anthropic's disclosed policies. And it applies regardless of whether you've turned off activity tracking. There's no equivalent temporary chat feature on Gemini. No granular memory list to audit, and custom instructions on Gemini are limited. Gemini Advanced has basic personalization, but it doesn't match the depth of ChatGPT's or Claude's implementation. The honest summary: if data control is a priority, ChatGPT and Claude give you more tools. Gemini gives you fewer controls, places them outside the app, and carries the longest disclosed human review window of the three. That doesn't mean stop using Gemini. It means use it with that information in mind. A pilot plan isn't a one-time fix. It's a standard you maintain. Here's your data controls checklist. Run it once today, then revisit it every time. Any of these platforms releases a significant update. Step 1. Turn off the training toggle on every platform you use. ChatGPT settings, no data controls, improve the model for everyone. Off. Claude. Account settings, no privacy, no training opt-out. Off. Gemini. Google account, no data and privacy, no Gemini Apps Activity. Off. Same action. 3 different locations. Do all 3 before you move to Step 2. Step 2. Audit your memory on ChatGPT. Open Manage Memory. Read every stored item. Delete anything you didn't consciously authorize. What remains should be your professional brief. Nothing more, nothing less. On Claude, review what context you've placed inside your projects. On Gemini, this step is limited. The architecture simply doesn't give you the same granular access. That's a gap worth knowing about. Step 3. Set a personal rule for temporary chat on ChatGPT. Decide right now which categories of topics get a temporary chat by default. Health, finances, client work, legal questions. Set that rule before the conversation starts, not after. On Claude and Gemini, this specific feature doesn't exist in the same form. For those platforms, the substitute is custom instructions, keeping sensitive context structured and deliberate, rather than typed in real time. Step 4. Write your custom instructions on every platform that supports them. ChatGPT and Claude both support this at depth. Your professional role, your communication preferences, What you want avoided in the response. Written once, applied every session. This step directly reduces the volume of sensitive context flowing through your live chat history on both platforms. One brief, written once. The data exposure drops immediately. Step 5. Export your ChatGPT data now, before anything else changes. You want a baseline record of what's been stored. Review it. Then let the new settings handle what happens from this point forward. 5 steps. All 3 platforms covered. Under 20 minutes total. Data controls aren't buried, because they're unimportant. They're buried because changing them affects how these platforms build and improve their models. Now you know where the settings are on all 3. You know what each one does and what each one doesn't. You know that Gemini's controls aren't in the app. You know that clearing your history isn't the same as deleting your data. And you know that Claude and ChatGPT give you more to work with than most users ever touch. The users who operate this way aren't less productive. They're more deliberate. Same outputs, less exposure, that's the whole game. If this gave you something useful, hit like. It tells the algorithm this content is worth surfacing. Next up, ChatGPT Custom Instructions, the exact professional brief setup that replaces sensitive real-time prompting, written once and applied to every session. Subscribe so you're ready when it drops.